Hey everyone, and welcome to another mini session, this time about the art of presenting with PowerPoint. We will be talking about you as the focus of the presentation and how to use PowerPoint to support your message rather than using it for presenting. For this we will go through 7 quick tips on presenting, along with 7 quick tips of using PowerPoint to your advantage. So who's this for? Well, first of all, you need to be somewhat familiar with PowerPoint, at least on a basic level. Can you create text and copy and paste pictures into PowerPoint? Well, that's it. You are qualified for this episode. You can also watch this for general presentation advice. We will have 2 main messages really. This episode will give you some basic tips in PowerPoint, but at the same time give you some advice on how to boost your charisma when presenting. Let's briefly start by covering the quick 7 tips of presentations. First one is knowing your audience. You might need to adjust your message based on who your audience are, their level of expertise, or their level of involvement. Number 2 is structuring your presentation. The best thing you can do to engage your audience is tell your presentation like a story, with a beginning and an end connecting to the beginning, all with a red thread going through. An extra trick is to take your audience step by step, using the previous step to go to the next step. Number 3 is going visual as much as possible. Remember here that more than 65% of people learn through visuals. In fact, there is a really nice quote from Confucius that once said, "What I hear, I forget. What I see, I remember. What I do, I understand." Now think about that. If you want the audience to understand your message and not just remember it, engage them in action and turn the presentation into a workshop instead. Number 4 is repetition and summarizing. Think of your main message and points you would want to convey and make sure they are repeated throughout the presentation. Also, it is always good to recap a slide before moving on to the next. Number 5 is storytelling once again, which is one of the most effective ways to make a presentation memorable. Alongside with storytelling, and avoid any yawns from the audience, be sure to include some fun elements into the presentation. Also beforehand, choose the main takeouts of your presentation and highlight them in bigger slides throughout the presentation. Number 6 is siding with your audience. Speak to them as one in their team. This will most of the time get your audience on your side and have them pay more attention to your message. Presenting unrelevant info for the audience that you know from point 1 will prove the presentation as irrelevant or boring. Now, last but not least, practice beforehand and boost that confidence of yours. Do a pre-ritual to relax. For instance, I stretch my entire body before a presentation, which really loosens me up and boosts my confidence. And if you have time, practice doing a small presentation about one of your hobbies or interests to any of your loved ones or friends and get their feedback. Now, moving on, what do you see in this picture? A stage? Musical instruments? Well, from now on, think of your PowerPoint presentation as your stage, including your band and instruments. Now, imagine your favorite singer coming to your town for a concert, and you just bought the tickets for the concert. A few days before, they announced that, due to unforeseen circumstances, the singer is not able to show up at the concert. They continue the message with saying everyone that bought the tickets are welcome to the concert, only to hear the music coming out of the speakers. You wouldn't even think twice about not going anymore, right? Well, this is because the focus of any concert, which in essence is a presentation, is always on the lead singer. In the same way, the focus in any presentation needs to go to the presenter and not the PowerPoint slides. Like the band and stage behind you, your PowerPoint slides should only support what you're saying. So with this conclusion, the first rule is to never put too much focus on your PowerPoint presentation. In business life, presentation skills goes a long way. And it's not about who can produce the most advanced slides. Rather, it's about how you as an individual present and if your audience are following you and in the end understanding your message. Professionally, the skill of being clear and at the same time inspiring goes a long way. Overshadowing this with too much action going on in your slide is a waste. That means no advanced animations. No need for teaching you those now. No, we're really looking for simplicity here, as simplicity goes a long way. And you want yourself to be the focus of your presentation. You want your audience eyes to be on you for the majority of the time, because there's just so much you can do to enhance your message. Think of facial expressions, body language, and audience integration keeps your audience awake, alert, and, if done properly, inspired. Rely on your verbal presentation and let your presentation support your verbal rather than vice versa. Moving on to the 7 tips of PowerPoint, first one being emphasis. Take a look at this first example. A very basic slide with a title and some bullet points. Well, the message is fortunately short and concise, but why not try combining it all into one big message rather than 4 separate bullet points? How about this? Whenever you get the chance, use excessively large fonts when you want to get an important message through. Why not also go with a strong colored background with white fonts or a picture in the background? Remember that humans remember visually more than orally or through hearing. Tip number 2 connects to the first tip and is about using keywords. Now, how many times have you seen a slide like this popping up? Or even worse, the presenter reading word by word of what is already excessively written in front of you. Or the worst thing, the presenter reading through this list with his face and body turned to the PowerPoint rather than the audience. Well, your eyes begin feeling strained and your ears shut off. And as a consequence, this might be the situation in front of your eyes. You get the point. Remember here, the more text you have in your slides, the more you begin to lose your audience attention. Try your best to avoid having full sentences as bullet points. Start by highlighting only the key words in the sentence and delete the rest. Sometimes it pays off deleting not so important bullet points to minimize the amount of bullet points, or rephrase it to minimal sentences. Tip number 3 is about animations. And no, we're not going to talk about any advanced animations to create an action movie. Here's another example, this time with shorter bullet points. Let's try to present this. All right, stop there. You and me both know you're focusing on the picture and reading the bullet points rather than what I'm saying, so there's absolutely no point of me standing here giving a verbal presentation, since everything is in front of you visually anyways. All right, let's try that again. Act 2 and action. Well, first thing first, there is a difference between a leader and a manager, and you have to master being both. Only by being a respected leader, one can become a successful manager. A leader develops people, giving them opportunities to grow. He follows up rather than micromanages, giving the team opportunities to learn from mistakes. A leader takes the blame and never points fingers. A leader leads by showing and being a good example. And a good leader does not sit somewhere in the office, not interacting with his team and dumping all work on the team. He is there next to you in many instances. He plans ahead rather than short term and treats his team as humans, considering their lives outside work as well, and is good with keeping close ties with connection. So what do you think? Get the idea? Now, what we have seen so far is how animations can help support what we're saying step by step. And what we saw is example of the wipe animations. Now what you do to achieve this is first clicking on the text you would like to animate and then going up to animations right here. Once you expand the Add Animations button, you will notice different types of animations. The green ones being entrance animations, the yellow ones puts emphasis, and the red ones are exit animations. My personal favorite when it comes to animating text is the wipe animation, so I'm going to choose that one right here. Now, as you noticed, the wipe animations wiped everything from bottom to top. However, I would like everything to go from left to right, as this is the English language, and I don't want everything to show up at once. I want everything to show up bullet by bullet point. So what I do is I go to the effect option right here and I select by paragraph. And now you will have animated sentences every time you click. Tip number 4 is about presenting numbers. So we've seen how much difference it makes when putting animations to bullet points in terms of focusing on each and every bullet by itself with the presenter's verbal presentation. My favorite entrance animation, as you saw, is the wipe, animating text from left to right. But what if we are presenting numbers in shapes of tables? Presenting a table like this makes it difficult to focus on specific points the presenter wants to highlight in the slide, and having a laser pointer will not solve the issue. You will quickly lose your audience as they will try to read the numbers from their own point of view, even when you're talking about a specific article, such as chocolate in the middle. As you see, chocolate, we're getting good margin from chocolate lately, but costs have gone up. White has a better sales per quantity, and cherry on the other hand can bring some extra profit if focused on correctly.
Shut up! Oh my God, I don't care!
And there you have it. This might be the very thing we are thinking in a couple of these presentations we have witnessed ourselves. Once again, as a reminder, if you haven't guessed it already, the most important element in a presentation is you. Too much on the slide and you lose your audience attention. Now what if we could do a wipe animation row by row, popping up instead of overwhelming the eyes of the audience with too many numbers at once? We have used the wipe animation before for bullet points. Unfortunately, it's not as easy to animate text inside a table. The trick I personally use is following. Start by creating a rectangular shape blocking out the text, like this. Then go to Shape Outline and choose No Outline, and then Shape Fill, and then select the eyedropper right here, and make sure that the colors are exactly the same. So let's try that again. Eyedropper, this color, there we go. Then proceed to copying and paste, blocking all of the texts, and do the same for the different colored cells. All you have to do is go back to Shape Fill, select the eyedropper right here, and select the appropriate color. In the end, you would have blocked out all of the text inside the cells. So now it's time to animate it, and we're going to choose an exit animation. So select all of these blocking rectangles, go back to animations, and this time we're going to add an animation which is not an entrance animation, but an exit animation. And as we had in the entrance animation, I'm going to have to choose wipe once again. And in the same instance, I choose from left to right. And I go to the animation pane here. If that's not open, this is the button to allow it to open. Select everything and choose Start on Click. Now you could animate row by row with the clicker. Alright, tip number 5 is to always remember to refresh and encourage leg stretching. A small reminder here, if your presentation is long, be sure to break it with a leg stretcher or a coffee break. Create a slide supporting this. When giving a training on ergonomics, I try to highlight an easy to remember rule, which is called the 35 rule. Meaning for every 30 minutes you or your audience are seated, take a 5-minute leg stretcher. This also helps in restoring some focus to the mind, both for yourself and for your audience. Now in tip number 6 we will be talking about pictures. Rather than having a dull and boring presentation with only texts or numbers, many like to spice up their slides with pictures. There are many interesting pictures out there. Most of them have a colored background. Here it is good to know these 3 things. First, how to crop the picture to your liking rather than stretching. How to remove backgrounds where there is a basic way of doing it but also an advanced way. And to remember that the resolution of your inserted pictures affect the final size of your PowerPoint file. First things first, let's talk about cropping pictures and not stretching it. I will drag a picture onto the slide, which I want to use, but I only want it to be on the side of the slide. So many times there are people who sort of stretch the images to fit a specific location, but that is a bit unprofessional. What we're going to do instead is we're going to try to eliminate any unwanted background or any unwanted places of the picture. We do that by selecting the picture, going to Format, and then going to something called Crop. You click on it once, and you notice that with your mouse you could sort of remove unwanted places in the picture. So I'm gonna remove half of its background like this, click Escape, and there you have it. You now could fit this picture easily without having to stretch it. Now we will try to use this picture of Tida for sofa and remove the white background. Since the background is a solid color, now we can use the basic version of removing background. What you do is you click the picture, you go back to Format, then you go to Color right here, and under Color you have an option called Set Transparent Color, which allows you to select which color should be transformed into transparency. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to select the white color here. And as you notice, now the background has automatically disappeared. Now, not all pictures have a solid colored background, making the basic background removal obsolete. So there is also an advanced way of removing backgrounds. For example, this picture does not have a solid background. If we use the same methodology of trying to set the transparent color, we can see that it won't really work out as there are multiple colors involved in the background. What we have to do is select the picture, go back to Format, and then there is a function called Remove Background. Once you click that, oops, let's do that again. Once you click that, you will notice that PowerPoint have tried to automatically select what is the background to remove, and that is indicated by this purple color. Now there's a lot of parts here that I want to keep and not remove. So I'm going to start by marking the areas that I wish to keep. And you can do that by simply drawing in areas where you want to keep. And PowerPoint will try its best to sort of recognize those areas. Continuing on. This area right here, and that area as well, a bit more on this, and maybe even a bit more. There we go. Once you're happy with the background removal tool, you could select Keep Changes, and voila, you have removed the background in the advanced way. Now, third of all, the size matters. Every picture you insert into your PowerPoint slide might have a high resolution, which might make the PowerPoint file very large, too large to be sent within an email attachment, for example. So one good tip is, once you've inserted all of your pictures, is to click one of the pictures, go to Format, and then go to something called Compress Pictures. This will open up a menu for you. First thing you do is remove the check on Apply Only to this picture, because we want this principle to be applied on all of our pictures. And you have the different options here of compressing the file to the lowest quality, which is email, but yet it is not very low quality. It's hardly noticeable. Or I would recommend web if you're going to present this with a projector. So I'm going to go with web and applying this to all of the pictures. Just click OK, and you will see that there is not much difference, but there is quite a difference being made to the final file size. Alright, tip number 7, the last tip, is about transitions. These can be found in the transition menu and are presets into how you would want the slides to transition. We will be talking about one of these transitions, and that is the morph. Transitions can be found by going to the transition menu and having to select the different options. What we will focus on is a transition called morph, which looks like this. So what is morph transition useful for? Well, if you want to animate object movement in your slides, you don't have to add any animation at all. All you have to do is copy all symbols and shapes to the next slide, putting them in the desired location of the slide. Then choose the transition effect, morph, and you have saved much time in animation. Finally, go out with a big thank you, and to eliminate any loose threads, encourage questions and feedback. But also, if there should be a subsequent meeting, make sure you finish with clear next steps. And finally, knowing well what you are presenting about is really key, as people who know what they're talking about don't need PowerPoint. As always, thank you for watching, and tune in for the next session.